Sacha, thank you so much for coming online with me today. I have been a fan of your work for a long time and mostly excited to kind of borrow your brain for a moment because I know you have a background in research. In Ibiza, the first thing that happened was just sheer and absolute panic. The first problem is the mass hysteria, right? Mass denial, then mass hysteria, then cabin fever is the next risk. Right, so our mental health is suffering really the most. The third phase is our business, right? So once we kind of like catch that hysteria, neutralize it, stabilize it, we're then ready to think about what we're going to do in terms of life in general. Our island is particularly emotionally vulnerable.
I'm happy to speak to part of that. Hysteria is definitely the theme of today. As you mentioned earlier, I'm referring to this as apocalyptic theater because that's exactly what it is. And you know, all that's being highlighted at the moment around the world is the degree to which we have been and remain unconscious as a civilization. Hopefully, what comes out of a self-imposed night of the dark galactic sleep that we're moving into right now, the whole world is moving into this kind of reflexive death and rebirth scenario. Hopefully what comes out of it is a self-awakening at that meta civilizational level, at that collective level. But I have to say that from my perspective, I am profoundly dismayed and to some extent disgusted, repelled by the reflexivity of people into such reductive fearfulness. It's very undignified, but it does speak to the collective quality of our society. And I hope that we can become embarrassed by this. Right now, millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people arguably are running around in circles in their own living rooms or their own mud huts under the threat of the government variously around the world. Stay home, do not do this, do not do that, do not touch humans, do not breathe, do not gather in groups of people. All of this stuff is hysteria. And again, it also betrays the fact that we don't even know what virology is, what viruses are. A virus is an excretion from the cell. It is a detoxification that is manifesting. So when a pandemic emerges, in a way, you should not be trying to hide it or disguise it. To some great extent, you need to allow that detoxification to occur. That's the fact of the matter. And when you've got billions of people needing being assaulted by 5G, but it's a detoxification that's happening. We have just been blitzkrieged by Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and a whole range of mutant frequencies. And all of the living ecosystems at the cellular level in the world are responding to that threat, which has reached a kind of threshold in the last few months, starting principally in China and in these various centers where this pandemic is purported to have emerged. But this is a detoxification that's happening. It happened in the Second World War when radar was initialized. There millions of people died of this influenza that came out of nowhere. And Spanish flu in the turn of last century, the same thing happened. They just introduced radio waves and telegraphy. And that phenomenon started surrounding the Earth in bandwidths of mutant frequencies, which were unfavorable toward living systems, and we did a planetary detox and purge through a virus that is excreted from the cells into the field. So number one, why are we not educating ourselves to the fact that actually what's happening with this virus is it's a purging or a detox? And why not then look at what it is that we're detoxing and who's behind the poisoning of the biosphere, the weaponization of the biosphere? Well, we all know it's criminal elements within the supranational government systems. But do we recognize that we are the ones who paid taxes for the last century and continue to pay taxes and shuffle along to those governments? These are all the things we need to actually recognize if we are to get to the root of what's going on. We have to take a good, hard look at ourselves as a civilization, individually and as a society, and then as individuals, To what extent are we attuned to our true spiritual light, the inner light, which incidentally won't remotely be threatened by this virus or any other virus, whether it's engineered or natural, immaterial. The inner light is the one thing, this frequency X and above, so-called heart or gut psionic frequency value and above, it will eliminate any and all threats. AIDS did not, massacre the planet in the way that it was engineered to do so. Swine flu, bovine flu, avian flu, all of this nonsense that has been variously engineered into the mainframe by these same diabolical entities. And I'd be very happy to talk about that. Who's behind it in governments? Who are the elements and the institutions that are colluding and conspiring to weaponize the biosphere? Again, all of these things need to be part of the solution. If we don't own who we are in a given situation, how the devil are we supposed to retrieve ourselves?
Absolutely, Sacha. I'm so glad you bring up all of these key factors, because I feel very much that the virus is symbolic in what you say, to us. In my mind, it plays out like a virus of fear, right? So like that, we're isolated, we're in our boxes, and this virus of fear, this COVID-19, like in my imagination, comes out directly from the person, like the shadow of each person in their isolation. And funnily enough, it's like we're being put against the wall, like we're being like smooshed into the mirror by the universe, and she's saying, look at yourself, please, now, because you have nothing else, no distractions, nothing.
Recall, Valeriiya, that the universe, as you put it, only ever reflects back to us the unresolved images that we are projecting from the inner world. So we are the ones projecting onto the holographic field, which is meeting us back in equal measure to the unresolved aspects of who we are and who we be and who we've been in the past, many incarnatory cycles. We have fucked up systemically, endemically, consistently. No, that is a word that is entirely appropriate right now, entirely appropriate. It's an English word, it's in the dictionary, and we have indeed fucked up. And people who are unhappy or not equal to the measure of reality with the language are going to have a really hard time in the coming days, because we're about to go into a tailspin, and it's been engineered. So again, forget about the universal mirror for a moment. Let's again look at things like the Pirbright Institute, who have patented this virus. The virus has been registered and patented for some years. Who's behind the Pirbright Institute? It was set up over 100 years ago by the British Empire, and they, with the objective of weaponizing the biosphere. The Wellcome Trust today and the Gates Foundation are the primary funders of the Pirbright Institution. They've been lobbying for global vaccination, mandatory vaccination programs. I'll remind you that Bill Gates is a high criminal in India, sought after by the Supreme Court for genocide, crimes against humanity. Why are we not telling ourselves this in the mainstream news, that we are paying taxes to endorse and to support? All of this weird confluence and entanglement of information and disinformation is a perfect reflection of the fact that we are not owning anything truly as spiritual beings. And this, as you say, is the perfect opportunity for us to do that.
Amazing. I'm so hanging by each word that you're saying, because it's so difficult right now to find somebody to have like a really sane conversation with, an informed, sane conversation. Because like you say, our biggest kind of like gray area is the fact that we're misinformed, disinformed continuously and intentionally for many, many years,
We permission ourselves to be so. We are giving permission every step of the way.
There you go. So like, this is our issue number one, isn't it? To become very clear about the situation that we find ourselves in right now, become educated, and kind of promote these kind of conversations with people who are more researched, more involved, more experienced, and start to really give very clear data to the mass that is thirsty for it, that we're not going to get from the mass media, because their intention
In a way, it doesn't matter what we say or how we play with words and information and trying to lobby truth against deceptions. This is all part of a hoo-ha ballet that we're playing out and hoping that we win a few points here and there. Again, this is also speaks to our endemic civilizational idiocy. There is so much more to it. Why are we paying taxes? For me, it always comes back to this, and I've been saying it for 15 years, stop paying taxes. And everyone goes into a reflex, I can't possibly do it. I'll wait until the neighbor starts. Mm-hmm. But we are the ones who are putting the coal into the furnace that's devouring us. We're literally shoveling the fuel in. Why are we doing it? Each one of us has to reflect on this. And we have to begin the civilizational process of uncoupling from this fiction called government. Government is a goddamn mind-controlled technology, a software that has been installed into our human program. It's utterly mutant. It is dead. It consists of soulless technocracy and bureaucracy that is conducting an orchestra of death, disease, and poverty. A pandemonium, mayhem, chaos by design, and the only thing sustaining it is our taxes, which is the totem of our time and motion. The energy we put into working, to doing things, equates to money. We pay the money to the government to devour us because that's what ends up. And I'm not saying that most people in government know about this stuff. They don't. Most people are functionaries. They simply are wage slaves just like you and me, doing their little bit in their little compartmentalized health department or trade department or whatever it is. This is, yes, thank you. Absolutely. A linear format, that's what happens. We are artificializing ourselves. We've cut ourselves off from our supernature. We've cut ourselves off from living ecosystems. We're cutting ourselves off now from relationship with one another as well by diving more and more into the artificialization and in digitization of communication and relationship. And now with this godless engineered pandemic, we are being told that grandmothers cannot hug their grandchildren for fear of spreading an illness, which is symptomatic of the problem in the first place, of the trial of separation that we are enforcing against ourselves. So that's the real math. It's quantum math. It's holographic mathematics, but we have to work our way through it. Now, you can either try and do it intellectually. Good luck. You'll tie yourself in a knot and you won't be able to breathe because it's too complex. The pandemonium is too entangled. Or you simply step into the still point within. And this is what our conversation is truly about each one of us moving into that still point, moving into that flame of coherence in the inner sanctum of our being and our knowing, our true spirit, our Atman, because that's the place that from where we can manifest the different outcome. The only way we can impact and enforce change and embody and manifest patterns of perfection will come from that still point, nothing else. So that's my appeal. I could talk about alien invasion. I could talk about Project Bluebeam. I could talk about the criminality of eugenics in the Second World War, about biosphere weaponization. We could talk about all those things, and they're actually immaterial. They are all part of the great illusion, the great Maya, the great deception. Let's know what we can. What can we actually do? How can we actually be and navigate through this dark night of the soul? Well, it's stepping into that still point and remembering our divinity, breathing in that supernature, and then holding true on the inside, holding the highest vision, the highest, most noble vision of this world that we can. Forgive all, absolve all, redeem all, Alpha to Omega. I love Hillary Clinton. I love all of the heinous crimes of ages that have been married to my blessed brothers and sisters in this world. I love each of them for offering themselves up for sacrifice endlessly, age after age after age. All of those wheels have been grinding and bringing us to this perfect moment in time. Now let's move into timelessness, which is the still point within us. And let's envision that new earth, that new world. And it will be so. This is our will be done. We must not give ourselves over anymore to intercessionaries. The monotheistic religions have done enormous damage to our divinity. The monotheistic religions have robbed us, absolutely robbed us of our true divine spark. And we have been led to believe over millennia that we are filthy, dirty, fetid, mutant beings who are unholy and unworthy. Bullshit! Each one of us is born in the divine flame. And we need to retake that place right now, restake our claim to our true supernature.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like the smart thing to do would be to turn off all of that that is still distraction and still noise and digital, you know, that still has that mind control, and just completely use that isolated space and
Yes.
close your eyes and go inside and live from there, because that is the only place of freedom we have been forced into, you know. And it's really beautiful in a way what's unfolding, because it enables us to have conversations like these, you know, and it enables us to think about a solution, and think about a collective solution, and see how the majority, which is considered the minority, can actually take a step up to the table and bring some things, you know, for the collective well-being, you know, for our collective win, you know, against this nonsense, this ego nonsense that's been going on forever. And frankly, a lot of us are tired. We are tired of this, and we no longer have, like, our immune system, our nervous system can't take what is being thrown at us, you know. And so it makes absolutely perfect sense to go into that space where all wisdom, all safety, you know, all love is, you know, and make your decisions and go from there.
People who are still trapped in the false light, in the Atlantean matrix, so to speak, and are more reductive in their worldview, will immediately throw rocks at what you've just said and what I've just said. And they don't believe that this is true. But the fact of the matter is that everything that is manifest in the world started in the imagination. Every single thing that we build and create and manifest begins in the imagined realm. We imagine everything, and then we manifest what we imagine. So obviously 1 + 1 is 2. Let's go back to the imagining board. In this still point, this collective inhalation that's happening all around the world. And this is my absolute conviction of what is about to emerge. I do not see any apocalypse emerging out of this, none whatsoever. I know about the apocalyptic timeline. Oh, I can see it clearly. I can even rationalize it. It's a mathematical formula that was designed to imperil us and to rob our souls and to allow the egregore and the lower astral elemental clouds to move into the human form and to take over our beautiful field of reality. Yes, this is all demonic possession. It's been an ongoing agenda for hundreds of millions of years. We are battleground zero. Earth, Tara, this precious planet, is battleground zero between these diabolical dimensional states and this perfect blue pearl state as well. And you and I, the living Homo sapiens sapien, we are the technology that makes the determination between the heaven and the hell, the apocalypse or the ascension. And once we simply own that, step away from government, from religion, from all of this monoculturalism, that has mind-fucked us into not being our true nature. Step into that space and go back to the imagining board. Now we're helped with this vibral light that is bombarding our solar system. This vibral light that is now bombarding us, which we've never had before since 2012, 2013, that crossover. That is a galactic signature event. This is pure physics. We are being bombarded by a photon cloud, a photon band. We are being enlightened from the inside. I've been speaking to this for many, many years. So the point I'm making is that the imagination that we have now is being assisted, abetted, supported, and infused by this vibral light, which will help the manifest outcome that much quicker. It'll be an exponential realization of the imagining. We need to move hard. We need to move quick. And we need to do so in absolute grace, each one of us, if we are to participate in manifesting our imagination into this new canvas that is going to emerge on the other side of this strange tunnel we're going through.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what would you say the best way to take personal responsibility, you know, in your participation in this game, right, would be to really take responsibility for both sides of yourself as the human being. No, the part that has been born into this world and programmed to be like the normal person and live in the normal world, but also to be able to accept your divine aspect as it is, you know, and not.
I think the alchemy. I think the alchemy, Valeriiya, is complex on the one hand and incredibly simple at the same time. I choose the simple version, which is that we need to foundationally redefine our relationships with ourselves. So self-honesty becomes essential there. Being able to see truth and know truth and face the truth at every level becomes critical. This is hard work. This is where the warrior, the fire, is very necessary in us. But we need to pick up a sword, that sword of truth on the one hand, and wield it against ourselves and against others, not based on opinion, based on pure truth, based on that which is, not that which I think is. Okay? And that's an art form that each of us need to start to grapple with and get to grips with. But on the one hand, we're wielding that truth and we're taking on the devil, so to speak. We're fighting bureaucrats and technocrats and people in uniform and governments and fictions and people who would dare to erode our dignity and to vaccinate our children and to tell us whether we can cross a road or not, or turn left or turn right. Any fiction that dares to undignify our sovereign standing as limitless, immortal, immanent beings in this world can go to hell. The flame of truth will see to that. So we need to fight that stuff on a minute-by-minute, daily basis. Each one of us standing in the queues in the post office, we need to enforce right action and pure truth. On the other hand, we need to imagine. We need to be creative. We need to elevate art and beauty and consciousness with the other hand. We need to dream and conjure the new world, the new earth into manifestation. That's the alchemy. Be honest and truthful, right action and pure truth, and elevate art, beauty, and consciousness in your life at the same time. To me, this is the alchemy. I've been working at this for some time with very beautiful friends and colleagues, and we're more or less succeeding at that strange alchemy. But that's my answer to the question, how can we take on the status quo? How can we step into our sovereign flame and reclaim our true dignity, our true divine nature, and then go forth and prosper?
That's so beautiful for you to bring all of this up, and so relevant, because I was observing that the powers to be who are, you know, orchestrating this whole entire operation, they are well informed, they are planned ahead, they have a strategy, they know exactly what they're doing. Us, on the other hand, who are the minority, you know, but are the majority, are actually misinformed, disinformed, lost completely. You know, we don't know, in panic, we don't know what's happening. We don't have a strategy. We can't even, like, the mass hysteria, in fact, puts like this border in between your capacity and incapacity of imagining the future. You know, so actually it's the hysteria, it stops us completely in our tracks. We feel frozen. We don't even, like, it's like a collective trauma response, right? And we're all like, everyone's shaking in their own corner, but they must commit to overcome that in order to move into the envisioning, the collective envisioning of the possibility and probability of the future. You're saying that through the imagination, collectively, we can then manifest, you know, that which we...
Well, I like the fact that we're asking the same question again and again and going around it, because it's necessary. It's beautiful. We're building up a holographic image. I will simply, again, underscore the them that are doing this to us that you mentioned do not exist in and of themselves. They are the unresolved aspects of you and I, that you and I are thereby permissioning into the field to come at us as bogeymen. The bogeyman doesn't actually exist.
Okay.
When you then own Atman, the inner spirit, the flame, and stand into that flame of coherence with the divine nature, then you eviscerate the bogeyman. It doesn't exist. You are the Alpha and the Omega, and you will define the outcome, because that is the way of the universal law. There is no other way possible. Sovereignty 101. That's where it begins and that's where it ends. The diabolical bogeyman can continue with his wiles and his evil ploys and dream up all sorts of horrendous scenarios. But again, I must at some point recognize that I am the progenitor of those nightmares. I am the one permissioning that reflection, because that still speaks to an unresolved aspect of who I am, who I be. The moment I forgive self, the moment I enter into true absolution of self by seeing self and by making that compact with myself and owning all that I am, all that I ever was, letting it be, letting it go. That's self-auto-destruct of the ego body, so to speak. And in that perfect moment in time, what you find is that the bogeyman disappears. And that you walk out of your front door the next moment, the next day, and everything starts to change. You start manifesting very, very different outcomes in this world. So again, it's always coming back to the same perfect geometry of who you are in the now and whether or not you are conducting right action and standing in pure truth. If you are operating on that simple metric, whoever you are, you could be a turnip farmer or you could be an astronaut. It doesn't matter. That is the simple metric of becoming one with your supernature. And when you do become one with your supernature, you understand two things. One, fearlessness, and the other one, timelessness. Meaning to say, you move into that still point as a perpetual state of being, a perpetual state of grace, a perpetual state of witness. Horrible things can still happen to you. Colleagues and friends and family can still turn against you. You can have terrible dramas still happening around you, but you do not identify with them. There is no affixing to them. You learn to witness and in grace all that happens without identifying. Therefore, there's no pain. There's no sorrow.
Because
there's no
attachment to the happening. That's beautiful. Wow. Sasha, would you be willing to do this with me again for a group in a different week? Would you also be open to me inviting another friend of mine, so it can be like a 3 people interview? I think she would be quite instrumental for our community, and to ask the questions that are in the core of our need, and very much to keep our conversation and keep expanding the subject that we started today.
Very happy to do that, and yeah, no problem at all. Just let me know when. None of us are going anywhere.
Fantastic. That's one thing I love about this, is that you can call anybody at any time and they will pick up because they are at home. Right. Fantastic. Sasha, thank you so much for your time, your love, and your wisdom. We really appreciate it. Ibiza community will drink fully from that cup. Thank you.
Much love to you all. Thank you very much. Yeah. Bye-bye.